All right, week 4, Fantasy Football Podcast. You'll have to forgive me this week. I didn't really have time to do any of the rotating pictures that I know we've all grown to love, but we'll be back to that next week. And if it makes you feel any better, I did enjoy a nice Rosh Hashanah today. So start with the waivers and trades from last week. The big move really was Denenberg dropping $26 on Torrey Smith, the rookie sensation for the Baltimore Ravens. I think it's a pretty good move. At 26 is, a significant sum, but it's not dramatically high. And I think Torrey Smith is a pretty good purchase here. He's really cemented after the big week the number 2 role in a pretty decent offense. Lee Evans is inconsistent and injured, and the Ravens, they don't really seem to give a shit about him. So I think Torrey Smith really has all the opportunity in the world to step up. Their other big receivers, Anquan Bolden, and they've got Ray Rice underneath. So Torrey Smith is really the only guy who can stretch the field and go deep. So, if he ever beats his coverage, he's going to have single coverage. And if he ever beats it, Flacco can get him the ball. So I think it's a pretty good purchase for Denenberg. Could be a solid 2 or 3 wide receiver for him. The other big purchase was Billy dropping $9 on Curtis Painter. Why? I don't know about that one. Curtis Painter sucks. He's garbage. His hair is stupid, and he's going to get destroyed on Monday night by the Buccaneers. So, Billy, I think that was a waste. You're never, ever going to start him. As far as trades, it wasn't really anything this week. I traded Ed Dixon to Oaks for 15 free agent dollars. I like Ed Dixon. He was kind of a sleeper of mine. I sort of, was high on him, but really, I was going to drop him this week anyways. I needed a backup running back. I was going to drop him to pick up Michael Bush, who I picked up anyways. Might as well do it for 15 fab dollars. I don't see why not. I think it's a good move for Oaks, but it's not nothing vital. All right, starting with the power rankings. Ariel number 12. As if absentmindedly dropping Miles Austin wasn't bad enough. Ariel really has made a series of pretty unfortunate moves. Arian Foster has really been a 0 for him so far, but he should be back at full strength this week, so you'll finally be able to utilize him. Really, Miles Austin and Tony Romo's injuries both, especially Austin, but Romo's injury, certainly didn't help him. Ariel's got a lot of work to do, but Shana Tova, Happy New Year. 11, Deutsch. Really this week the Grossman Hightower connection paid off for him, but that was essentially it. Nothing else really worked out. His team on paper doesn't look that bad. I do like some of the things he has going on, and I still am happy that he managed to dump Peyton Manning, but things just aren't really working out for him so far. Number 10, Andrew Oaks. Oaks has the second lowest scoring team in the league. Josh Freeman has been a just complete disappointment, and Chris Johnson, he traded for him, and Chris Johnson just has not done anything. Maybe this is the week he gets back on track. I don't know. But, Oaks does have some nice upside in Ryan Matthews. Ryan Matthews had a really good week, and things could work out well there. But Oaks definitely needs some help at the quarterback position. Speaking of needs help at the quarterback position, number 9, I put myself. I continue to get some bad luck. I'm getting matched up with some really high-scoring opponents. I just lost to Billy this past week by less than a point when Felix Jones had a great game and then just vanished on the last drive, and Tashard Choice couldn't do anything. So that was just some hard luck there. But my starting tandem of Sam Bradford and Colt McCoy really is one of, if not the worst, tandem of quarterbacks in the league, in our league for fantasy. I really had high hopes for Bradford. I figured, this was a keeper league, so I get a guy who's going to be pretty good this year and great for the next couple years, but, he's just looked terrible. I don't know if it's the line or if it's their receivers or what the hell is going on there, but Bradford has just been garbage in 2 out of the 3 games he's played, and he wasn't even really that good in the other one, as he had a chance to throw for about 5 touchdowns. He only came away with 1. And then also Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy has been decent. I don't really know I didn't have high expectations for him, but he's not a legitimate fantasy starter, and I'm putting myself in a position where I need to rely on him, which isn't great. So, unfortunately, until I get better at quarterback, I'm not really going to be moving up any. In at number 8, John Krause, despite a 4-2 record, he's gotten absolutely nothing from Antonio Gates since trading for him, but he's harnessed the power of Ryan Fitzpatrick and Wes Welker's ridiculous game to get 4 wins. Despite having constant injury risks, Krause's team is pretty solid. I think there's going to be some solid Plotzker-Krause showdowns down the stretch here. But Krause's half his team is questionable every week, and there's a lot of guys there that Gates. Who the hell knows? Maybe he's done for his career. Who knows? So I don't know. Some of Krause's injury risk sort of has me questioning it. In at number 7, Billy. Billy got a gift win, as I just mentioned, in beating me by less than a point last week. However, he does have a pretty good team, and he actually has had even worse luck than I have matched up against. He's allowed the most points in the league, which obviously is not his fault. Really, when you look at his team, Adrian Peterson and Drew Brees are as advertised. They've been very solid. And it looks like Julio Jones is kind of picking up some speed. He had his first 100-yard game last week. So Billy could be moving up, depending how some of his ancillary players work out. And then coming in at number 6, we have Jason Plotzker. Despite feasting on a poor division, Plotzker has a pretty solid crew. Obviously, as I've touched on before, Aaron Rodgers and LaShawn McCoy are really his heavy hitters. But, if Eli Manning keeps throwing 4 touchdowns a game, Plotzker's team could be unstoppable. So I like Plotzker's squad. He looks like he has, a pretty good chance of winning our division. In at number 5, Justin. Justin made a nice pickup in Scott Chandler a couple weeks ago, and he's really benefited from Darren McFadden having a hot start. What's crazy is that Justin's team is pretty solid, and that Phillip Rivers hasn't even really taken off yet. So, if Rivers sort of solidifies things and turns into the Rivers from last year, who was putting up a solid 300 yards and 3 touchdowns every week, Justin could have a really good team. In at number 4 is Bootsy. He did go 0-2 last week. Probably would be higher in the rankings if he didn't. Matt Stafford and Jay Cutler have been reliable fantasy options. Jay Cutler hasn't exactly been a reliable real-life option, but for fantasy, both of those guys are working out pretty well. Bootsy, in order to make the jump to the top 3 to the elite level, he really needs more from Rashard Mendenhall and from Brandon Marshall both. In at number 3, Denenberg. He was lucky to play Ariel last week. He only scored 97 points. Would have lost to a number of other squads. Easily could have gone 0-2. I believe that's kind of an aberration. However, Denenberg still has the 4th highest scoring team in the league. So obviously he's doing some things right. Frank Gore has been kind of a letdown. As I mentioned before, I do really like the Torrey Smith pickup. I think that could help solidify the roster. Really, it's just up to Vic. He needs Vic to stay healthy. Vic has, still has the potential to put up big points, but just has struggled a little bit so far. In at number 2, Ben. Ben can rest easy. Every week he knows he's getting constant production from Andre Johnson, Fred Jackson, Mojo Drew. It's like clockwork with those 3. Really, what's made the difference for him is, I just mentioned it, Fred Jackson, he was able to get Fred Jackson for pretty low cost, and, he's really turned into a great player. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler this year. And also Tony Gonzalez has scored 5 touchdowns or 4 or 5 touchdowns already, which no one really saw coming. So I think, as I mentioned, Jackson's going to keep it up. I think Gonz is going to kind of tail off a little bit, but Ben definitely looks to be a contender for the playoffs. And then, much to no one's surprise, I'm sure, number 1, Ted. Ted Rifkin, what can you say? Kid's killing it. His team is incredible. Cam, Tom Brady, Calvin he leads the league in touchdowns. Jimmy Graham is constantly putting up points. Just like Ted is constantly putting up points. He's 3 to lead to start the season, 3 weeks straight, top points. Obviously, there's no one that could even really touch that as number 1. So, well done, Ted. Hopefully, someone can take you down, knock you down a few pegs, but for the time being, he's the king of the hill. All right, crack open the old mailbag here. Thanks for getting the questions in. First question, why am I so bad at fantasy football? From Brian Deutsch. Don't feel bad, Deutsch. Really, I like your team on paper. I think you do too. It's just not, it's not a terrible team. It just, for whatever reason, things just haven't really strung together for you. When one guy does well, other people don't. So that's sort of too bad. You did make a massive mistake in overspending for Peyton Manning at the draft. The news had already come out that that he was not going to start the season. So I'm not sure why you spent all that money on him. Also dropping half your free agent dollar acquisition budget on Dexter McCluster, I don't think was a very good move. But this is an expert level league. The competition is pretty stiff in this league. If we were a ski slope, we'd be a double black diamond. So even the simplest of mistakes, the smallest lapse in judgment can really take you out of the running. So, but it's a long season. There's still 22 matchups left to go. There's plenty of time. I wouldn't get too down. Next question. Longtime listener, first time emailer. Question number 1. This is a 4-part email, so must have been saving these up. Question 1. Last year we had some big free agent pickups in Brandon Lloyd, Stevie Johnson, and others. Which free agent pickup over the first 3 weeks will prove to be the best? And will any be as valuable as the ones from last year? That's a good question. It's coming from Ariel. Thank you for contributing. I would say, initially, for starters, don't forget my pickup of Ben Jarvis Green Ellis last year. I got him for pretty cheap. He was sick. He scored 10 touchdowns. He was great down the stretch. But, this season so far, the best waiver pickup might still be out there. You don't really know. It doesn't really happen until, week 5, week 6. So far I'd say I think Daniel Thomas is a good pickup for Deutsch. I really, Daniel Thomas, all the press on him was pretty negative, but he's looked really strong, and Reggie Bush has looked really terrible. So I don't think it makes up for the $50 that Deutsch threw away on Dexter McCluster, but I think Daniel Thomas is going to be very solid. Also, I see David Nelson continuing to put up pretty good numbers for Justin. I think he's going to pick, he's not a top 10 receiver, but I think he'll be pretty solid for the rest of the year, pretty reliable. And also, just to mention it for the third time, I do like Denenberg's pickup of Torrey Smith. I think Torrey Smith could be pretty solid. I don't think any of those guys or anyone that people are going to get in the next few weeks is going to be as valuable as Peyton Hillis was last year to Bootsy, or Ben Jarvis Green Ellis was to me, or Stevie Johnson. I mean, a lot of these guys that were picked up last year really made an impact, and so far I don't think it's really going to be the case this year, but I could be wrong. Second question, how much will I regret dropping Sidney Rice? I don't think you're going to regret it that much. Sidney Rice sucks. His injury is a torn labrum, so really he could be out at any moment. Just the wrong hit or anything going wrong, he could be done for the season. So I don't think you're going to regret being nervous about that. And furthermore, he's the only decent receiver in a terrible offense. So he's going to finish outside the top 25 at wide receiver. You've got Witten, Owen Daniels, who I gift wrap for you, Miles Austin, and you just picked up Denarius Moore, who's looked pretty solid, 2 touchdowns in 2 straight games. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. It probably wasn't the best decision. It probably was better to hold on to him and see what his upside was, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. Third question, who do you think will win each division or last place in each division? It's definitely way too early to guess this, but just to humor you, I'll say division winners are Ted, Plotzker, and Denenberg. I'd say Justin upsets Ben for the wild card. Last place finishers, definitely you, definitely Oaks, and I don't know how to call that last division. Let's say Billy. All right, fourth question. Any teams doing real bad you see turning it around? Any first place teams you see dropping? I think things are going to remain pretty constant. The good players are the good players and the bad ones are the bad ones. But, if any top team really has potential to fall off, it's Kraus because of all his injuries. At any moment he could lose 2 or 3 guys, and that would be a lot of trouble for him. As far as of all the struggling teams turning it around, I think I have a good chance of it. I've put up a lot of points. I've lost to teams that have scored high points. And, all I really need is Bradford to wake up and sort of utilize his potential, and I do have a pretty solid team. Next question. Dear Mr. Bauer, my question today concerns gambling. If one were to count fantasy football as a method of gambling on pro football, what percentage of NFL viewers on any given game are gambling? Well, I would say upwards of about 80%. That comes from Jason Plotzker, by the way. Upwards of about 80%. Now, if you're asking who's gambling on just the first quarter line of Titans-Browns game and simultaneously buying points for Raiders-Pats, I'd say the percentage shrinks a little bit down to just you. Next question. Mr. Bauer, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's tired of Kraus criticizing every roster move made by fellow owners. Can we institute a moratorium on comments from the Peanut Kraus Gallery until he A, wins the league, or B, leaves the draft with at least a top 20 quarterback? I'm all for this. I agree he's, constantly criticizing, but he has turned chicken shit into chicken salad with Ryan Fitzpatrick. QB was kind of all he needed, and now he's got a solid one, so not sure what to say. Last question. Dear Mr. Bauer, hypothetically, if you had a sister and she were to date a league member, who would you prefer she date? If possible, list on descending order from no way in fucking hell, I'd kill her before allowing her anywhere near that guy, to it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So, Denenberg, I'm running short on time here, so I'll spare you the power rankings, but, as Dave Chappelle once said, if anyone's going to have sex with my sister, it's going to be me. All right, I wouldn't let her date any one of you degenerate fucks. But also, I wouldn't want to see my sister. She would be the hairiest girl on the planet. Thanks for listening. Good luck this weekend.